The idea of Amazon Prime came from an engineer who pitched it in a digital employee suggestion box. Google allows their employees to use 20% of their time on their own endeavors, and this brought about the creation of Gmail. Former CEO of Disney, Robert Iger, has stated in an interview conducted by Oprah that he knows he cannot manage everything all by himself at Disney. Instead, he builds a team of talented people and allows them to make creative and business decisions. These are all examples of a business practice called employee involvement. You see, corporate leaders working at Amazon, Disney, Google, they understand the value of their employees' ideas and participation in solving company problems. However, what these companies are succeeding at, our schools are failing at. Schools are also like a business. Students are the employees. Each course is a sector of the company where we are working at, where we have responsibilities, and each teacher is the manager of that division. Now, there's obviously differences between schools and a business. For instance, we students ain't getting paid. But the difference I would like to focus on is that in business, employee involvement is viewed as crucial to a company's success. Hence, it is actively encouraged. In schools, students are not involved in their classes. They are not taking leadership. They are not participating. Many students are being viewed as theory X workers, lazy, disliking work, need strict rules, need to be closely supervised, like this fella here. Therefore, many teachers are taking an autocratic leadership approach where students are extremely reliant on the teacher. There needs to be a change in mindset. Schools need to adopt a more laissez-faire style to allow for students to take bigger roles in classes as employees are in companies. Schools can achieve this by focusing on increasing student participation. Student participation can involve lots of things. It can be a one-sentence exchange or part of a larger discussion. More importantly, it allows for students to take control of their classes and be more involved in their learning. It allows for diverse students to bring their unique ideas into classrooms and help create a more inclusive and engaging environment. It helps bring much-needed energy into classrooms, and students can learn from one another while improving their communication skills. Furthermore, heightened learning can take place, as student-led discussions can help students make sharp connections between course content and their own life. These sharp connections grant deeper understanding and enhance students' ability to remember course content. But the problem schools are facing is not ignorance regarding the benefits of participation. It's that students are simply not participating in class to the extent they should. Bringing me to what I call the 4 limiting factors of student participation. These are 4 factors why many of us are a little anxious to speak up in class. Number 1, wariness. Many of us are afraid to speak up because we think we are wrong. And no one wants to be wrong in public. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, then you should be up here and teaching us all how, to be honest. Number 2, perception. Some of us don't want to look dumb in front of our peers, and some of us don't want to look like the know-it-all. It goes both ways. Number 3, we don't know. I mean, we've all been there. Sometimes we genuinely don't know what to say. And number 4, disinterest. Sometimes we just don't want to. I mean, I've had bad days, you've had bad days. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, some of these factors are up to the personal. Although I hope after this talk it inspires some of you to maybe take some more risks in class. But I'd like to focus on what schools actually can do and should be encouraging staff to try to engage students. Strategies that can remove some of the power the 4 limiting factors have. And I've boiled it down into 3 steps. Number 1, asking the right questions. Number 2, creating a comfortable environment. And number 3, giving students confidence. Now, where did these 3 steps come from, right? Well, firstly, from my own experience. I had a class assignment last year where I was responsible for creating a class discussion, and I used the assignment to test this theory, and it went brilliantly. I mean, my teacher even called my mom to congratulate me on my discussion. Unfortunately, my mom thought he was a scam caller, so she let it go to voicemail, but that's not important right now. Secondly, I've compiled research from different outlets, including the University of Nebraska and the University of Waterloo. So now, let's break these 3 steps down into some more detail. Asking the right questions. To succeed in this, teachers need to prepare high-level discussion questions beforehand. Research conducted by John Andrews can give us a guide on how to construct meaningful questions that engage students. The best questions focus on the why and how and are open-ended. There are 3 types of questions that do that best. Number 1, the playground question. Questions that allow students to explore a topic freely. For instance, if you're teaching Macbeth, read the opening witches scene before telling the class anything about the play, and then ask them for their interpretations or what they think it means or any conclusions they can make. Second, the brainstorm question. Questions that get students to think of as many different answers as possible, like asking, what can bookstores do to increase traffic in their stores? And lastly, debate-type questions. Questions that get students to pick a side regarding an issue, like asking, is social media healthy for teenagers? If teachers can instill these 3 question fundamentals into their classroom, then students are surely able to take a bigger role in their class. Now, one thing to avoid is asking questions with a definitive right or wrong answer. These do not succeed at engaging students because it just sparks a one-sentence response and it intimidates us from saying anything in the first place. Instead, try asking questions with multiple possible correct answers to remove some of that fear of being wrong in public. Another thing to avoid is asking questions without sufficient context or information for students to generate an answer. Do not ask, how did Romeo change throughout the course of Romeo and Juliet? Try asking, what was Romeo like when he was heartbroken over Rosaline? And compare it with his behavior when he killed Tybalt. The latter provides students something to work with. Moreover, teachers should limit question dumping, meaning they should not ask multiple questions back to back. Many do this in an attempt to clarify their original question, but does not succeed as it further muddies the waters and confuses us. Now, moving on to creating a comfortable environment. How can we do this? Well, a way to foster this is for teachers to show students that they're actually listening to, engaging with, and value student responses. They can show this by following up on a student's response, creating a dialogue, complementing their thinking, or connecting their thinking with the actual lesson. So, teachers, an example. If a student has volunteered, maybe they've touched on something related to the lesson, acknowledge that. Also, class, George's previous example of Netflix donating money to a COVID relief fund is an example of corporate social responsibility, our lesson for today. You know, I'm starting to think this class might be a little too advanced for this child, but you get the idea, right? Now, another method is encouraging peer-to-peer interaction, as that can create a sense of community where students feel safe making mistakes. Teachers can help achieve this by directly asking students what they think of their peers' responses, if they agree, if they disagree, and even ask them to connect their own responses with another student's. That is a great example, Mark. Could you connect your example with the definition Sarah gave earlier? If a student asks a question, consider posing it to the class first. Would anyone like to help Mark out by answering his question? This makes students a more substantial part of the classroom, and isn't it great when students are learning from one another? Teachers can promote that environment further by moving away from the front of the classroom, creating an environment where students are the collective leaders and part of a team, so that even when we are wrong, we have our team to support us and help us back up. Moving on to the last strategy to increase student involvement, giving students confidence in class to share their ideas, to remove fear of being perceived a certain way. Teachers can actually help nurture this environment, and we can look at research conducted by Floyd Rumore. You see, his research suggested that if teachers pose a question, all they have to do is wait longer. A bit of silence never hurt anybody, right? If teachers have constructed high-level questions in advance, they should not fear silence, but embrace it. Let students ponder on a question. Longer wait times not only improves confidence, but also increases the number of responses, allows students to generate better answers, and increases student-to-student exchanges. Method number 2 in increasing student confidence is encouraging them to bring in their own personal experiences into the classroom. Teachers can help accomplish this by framing questions in a way that they directly tie to the experiences many students in class have. For instance, instead of just asking, what characteristics make for a great leader, try asking, does your boss at work do a good job leading you? Why or why not? Relating a question this way with our experience makes us more confident in our answers because we have actually lived it. In conclusion, where we are today is we have students who have more resources than ever before, hence have the potential to be more capable than ever before. But they're locked in an environment where they are not treated as such. What would the world look like if students are given the freedom to help each other succeed and be more involved in their learning? It would be a world where students are more involved in their future and more understanding of one another. Thank you.